Hey guys, Ryan here at etrailer.com. Here we have our CURT hitch installed on our Subaru Outback Wagon. As you can see, even though the hitch is visible, it does flow nicely with the body lines over Subaru. Now, one of the things I really like about this hitch on our Subaru is that it actually comes out just a little bit past our rear bumper. Well, that means we're going to have great clearance when we're using accessories, things like our bike rack or a cargo carrier. Now, this is a Class 3 hitch, which means we're going to utilize this 2" by 2" receiver tube opening. And it's also going to have a reinforced collar here for extra strength. Now, it is going to have a standard size 5/8 hitch pin hole opening, which a hitch does not come with a pin and clip, but if you need one, you can find one on etrailer.com. It's going to have a plate style safety chain loop opening, which is going to give you enough room to use just about any size hook. Now, this hitch is rated for some pretty impressive numbers. As far as the maximum tongue weight, that's going to be 600 pounds. That's the amount of weight pushing down on your receiver tube here. As far as the gross trailer weight, that's going to be 4,000 pounds, or the amount of weight pulling on it. So that's typically the weight of your trailer and anything on it. Now, it's always a good idea to check with your Subaru's owner's manual to make sure your car can pull that much weight. Now I'm going to give you a few measurements. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost part of the rear bumper is about 3 inches. You're going to need this when deciding if any folding accessories you might have can be folded up without making contact with your car. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening is about 15 inches. Now, you're going to use this when deciding if your hitch mounted accessories needs either a drop or a rise. Now that we've gone over some of the features, I'm going to show you how to get it installed. To begin our install, we're going to need to lower the exhaust. Now, before we do that, it's a good idea to take a strap, like this ratchet strap here, and put it across the car. That way, when we do lower the exhaust, it's somewhat supported. So here on the muffler, there's going to be 2 rubber isolator hangers like this. We're going to need to take those off, that way the exhaust can come down. So we're going to use some silicone spray just to kind of lubricate that. It'll make it easier to take off. Then we can take a pry bar and pry it towards the end of the hanger. Just to give us a little more clearance, we're actually going to remove this hanger as well. Now we're going to remove our heat shield right above the muffler. There's going to be 4 10mm bolts just like this. Now, on each side of the frame rail, we're going to have 2 rubber plugs like this on each side. We're going to need to remove them. You can just use a flathead or a pry bar and just pop them right out. On the frame rail, this larger hole towards the front of the vehicle, we're going to need to enlarge that. That way we can put our hardware through there. Now, I'm going to use a stepper bit, but you can use a grinder or anything else you might have to do that. Now we're going to repeat that same process for the other side. Now, it's a good idea to use a little spray paint to paint over the hole that we just made. That way there's no bare metal exposed. Now we need to get our hardware to come out of this hole here towards the bumper. Now, to do that, we're going to use a fish wire. You'll take the coiled end and put it through the hole here in the rear and push it up towards that larger hole that we drilled. You might have to get your finger in there and you're trying to pull the coiled end out just like this. Then what we're going to do is take our spacer block and put that on first. And just kind of loosely push it into the frame rail. Then we'll take a carriage bolt and thread that into the fish wire. And we're going to pull that all the way through to get it to come out of this hole here. Just like that. We're going to repeat that for the other side. Now with an extra set of hands, we're going to put our hitch into place. We're going to take our fish wire and feed it through these holes towards the back of the hitch. Once you have the carriage bolt coming through the hitch, you can take off your fish wire and just loosely thread on the nut. Be careful when you're doing this, you don't want to push that bolt back into the frame. So it can be kind of tricky, just take your time and you'll get it. Now if you're having trouble getting the nut to thread on because the bolt wants to push up into the frame, you can take a flathead or a pry bar or something and put pressure on the bolt, and that'll keep it in place so you can actually thread the nut on. With our hitch in place and our hardware tightened up, secure, we can then drill out a hole in our frame rail. That way we can put the rest of our hardware through the hitch. We're going to repeat that same process on the other side. That's a good idea before we put our hardware in, since we do have some exposed metal from the hole we drilled, just to take our spray paint again and put a shot of paint on it, just to protect it from the elements. So now we can get our hardware through this opening in the hitch. We're going to use the same process as we did as the other hole. So we'll just take our fish wire, feed it through and push it back to the hole that we made bigger. And then we'll take our spacer block, put that over our fish wire, and push it in to the frame. Then we'll take our carriage bolt, and once again thread that onto the fish wire. Feed it up in through there, and pull it down just like that. We'll do the same thing on the other side. And we'll get our nut started on it. Now that all our hardware is installed, we can tighten everything down. Now we're going to go ahead and use a torque wrench to torque everything down. You can find that proper torque specification in your instructions. Now with all of our hardware torqued down properly, the next thing you would need to do is trim your heat shield. Now for video purposes, we're going to skip this step, but I did show you where you would need to. So here's your heat shield here, and along this yellow line, and up through here, that's where we would cut. So we want to get rid of or completely remove this yellow section. Now once you have this area of your heat shield trimmed away, at this point you can reinstall it the same way that you took it off. Now we can go ahead and put our exhaust back up. Lastly, we can remove our safety strap. And that'll do it for our look at and installation of the CURT Class 3 2-inch trailer hitch receiver on our 2019 Subaru Outback Wagon.